want to talk about compliance versus security for a couple of minutes. I've seen some discussions about this recently, and I had a very different perspective before I became a CISO for a period of time. Previous to that role, I had a very similar opinion to what I see often discussed here, which is compliance is often an impediment to being secure. It's not the same thing. It doesn't really help you necessarily be secure. And to an extent, I agree with that, but I think it's also important to understand what a compliance program is really intending to achieve. When we think about and talk about compliance, typically we're referring to a specific standard like HIPAA or ISO or NIST or something like that. And those tend to be least common denominator, trying to cover all of everybody. And they don't really get into a lot of prescription. But one of the things that that I changed my thinking around as a CISO is that compliance really is complying with your program. Your security program really is intended or needs to intend to meet the needs of all of the regulatory and various compliance programs that it has, but it also needs to meet the requirements that your environment has to operate securely. And so when I think of compliance, my mind doesn't go to NIST or PCI or what have you. What I think of as compliance is the rate at which my environment is adhering with my security policy and security objectives. And in that way, it's a very important aspect of a program where you have something more than just a handful of assets. If you have a very large environment, you have to have a way to manage that at scale, and that, in my estimation, is really done through compliance. Now, the other challenge that I think we have to come to grips with is that there are two sets of adversaries in a organization that has to operate under some regulation, and the number one is the threat actors, and number two is the auditors.